The person you keep thinking about does care about you. Truly, in a deep and quiet way that does not always show itself in obvious actions. And that is why this message feels so heavy, because it touches that silent place between two people who feel something real, but do not fully speak it. When one person stays in your mind again and again, not just once in a while, not by random chance, but almost like a constant echo, there is usually more happening under the surface than it first appears. If there is distance between you now, whether it is emotional space, physical separation, or complete silence, the reason may be very different from what you have been telling yourself. Stay with me, because this part matters. What looks like absence is not always empty. What feels like rejection is not always a lack of love. Sometimes the person who cannot seem to move closer is the same person who carries you with them through ordinary hours of the day. They remember your voice. They remember the way you looked at them. They remember how calm, safe, seen or understood they felt around you. Those small moments did not disappear. They stayed. They settled somewhere deep inside. This is not always a person who forgot you and simply moved on without struggle. Very often, it is someone who still feels the weight of the connection but does not know how to hold it well. And that changes everything. Because the distance may not be there because the feeling is weak. The distance may be there because the feeling became too strong, too exposing, too real for them to manage in a simple way. That truth surprises many people, but it happens more often than most will admit. So the question becomes obvious. If the feeling is real, then why the silence? Why the hesitation? Why the space? Because love does not always make people move forward right away. Sometimes it makes them freeze. Sometimes it makes them step back and think. Deep emotion can bring warmth, but it can also wake fear. The moment someone truly cares, they begin to notice everything in themselves they usually keep hidden. Their old wounds rise. Their doubts get louder. Their fear of loss becomes more real. Suddenly this is not only about wanting someone. It becomes about whether they are ready to give what this kind of bond asks from them. And that can shake a person more than they expected. You do not only touch their heart, you also touch what is unfinished inside them. You reach the part that still feels insecure, the part that fears failure, the part that wonders if love will end in pain. Here is the part most people miss. Strong feelings can expose weakness just as much as they create courage. When someone feels seen too deeply, they may pull away not because the bond means nothing, but because it means too much. Silence is not always coldness. Distance is not always indifference. Sometimes it is a person trying to survive emotions they do not yet know how to express. They may want to come closer. They may even imagine honest conversations with you. But fear keeps interrupting that desire. Their mind fills with questions. Am I enough? Will the first disappoint them? What if I hurt them? What if this becomes something I cannot hold together? Those thoughts grow louder than their desire to act. And little by little, distance becomes the only way they know to cope. For some people, real love feels less like comfort at first, and more like responsibility. The deeper they feel, the more careful they become. They do not want to lose you, but they are also afraid they will not love you in the way they believe you deserve. That fear is hard to explain, and in many cases, they do not fully understand it themselves. They live in contradiction. One part of them wants closeness, another part feels safer pulling away. So they create space, not always on purpose, not always with clear logic. It becomes a form of emotional self-protection. Every step back, every delayed message, every quiet day can carry meaning. It does not automatically mean the feeling is gone. In fact, sometimes it means the opposite. It means the feeling became heavy enough that they needed room to make sense of it. Their affection continues in quiet ways. They think about you during normal moments. They remember certain words, certain looks, certain details that most people would forget. They replay past talks. They imagine what they should have said. They notice how much your presence affected them, even when they never say it aloud. That kind of attachment is real. It simply does not always arrive through obvious gestures. This is why situations like this can feel so confusing. Love is there, but it does not move in a straight line. It asks for patience. It asks for empathy. It asks both people to understand that human emotion is rarely simple. Sometimes care appears through reflection instead of action, through restraint instead of pursuit, through silence instead of grand expression. That does not make it easy, but it does make it more human. And once you see that, the space between you begins to look different. You may feel confused by how someone can care and still remain distant. But very often, the person who fills your thoughts is emotionally closer than they appear from the outside. Their feelings continue even during the quiet, and the space between you does not define your worth. It does not measure your value, and it does not fully measure the depth of what they feel. More often, it reflects how complicated love becomes when it meets fear. Remember that love is not always loud. It does not always come in clear signs, repeated messages, or easy promises. Sometimes it grows in private thoughts, hidden hope, and feelings that stay buried beneath the surface because the person carrying them does not yet know how to live them out. So when you notice the silence, do not rush to label it as proof that nothing is there. Absence and lack of love are not always the same. A person can care deeply and still struggle to move closer. Their quiet may contain emotions they have not learned to express yet. The distance may not be rejection at all. In many cases, it is a shield, a fragile one, a shield built around feelings that feel exposed, vulnerable, and difficult to control. And here comes the surprising truth. Sometimes the distance exists because they care so much, not because they care too little. Let that sink in. Sometimes the very reason they step back is because getting closer would force them to feel even more, and that intensity scares them. They fear dependence. They fear losing emotional control. They fear the pain that could come if things fall apart. So instead of risking that pain, they stay silent, not to punish you, not to play games, but to protect themselves from a heartbreak they already imagine before anything has fully begun. Deep down, many people like this believe you deserve someone stronger than they currently feel. Someone more certain, more steady, more emotionally complete. And one difficult truth is that they compare themselves to you more than you may ever realize. They see qualities in you that they admire: your depth, your sincerity, your ability to care openly, your way of connecting from the heart. Instead of always feeling inspired by those things, they can feel intimidated by them. They begin to wonder if they will be able to meet your expectations or offer the kind of relationship they think you need. So they tell themselves they need more time, more healing, more growth, more clarity. And while they tell themselves that, the distance stays in place. Meanwhile, there is an invisible battle happening inside them. They think about reaching out, then stop. They imagine what they would say, then delete it in their mind. They picture closeness, then feel fear. Their thoughts move between hope and retreat over and over again. They worry about making mistakes. They worry about causing pain. They worry about disappointing someone they truly respect. From the outside they may seem calm, even detached. But inside it can be noise, conflict, and uncertainty. They go back to memories. Small moments become big in their mind. A smile, a phrase, a look, a simple exchange that nobody else would remember can become meaningful to them for weeks or months. Even while trying to move on or distract themselves, those thoughts return, and each time they measure themselves against what they think you deserve. Too often they decide they fall short. So if you have seen their distance as proof that they never cared, the truth may be far more complex than that. What traps them is not always a lack of feeling. Sometimes it is the strength of the feeling itself. They are pulled in two directions at once. One part longs for closeness. Another part fears what that closeness will demand from them. The stronger the desire becomes, the stronger the fear can grow beside it. And that contradiction hurts. They want intimacy, yet they move away from it. They want connection, yet they hesitate to build it. Every silence may carry conflict. Every delay may hide a battle you cannot see. Behind the walls they built, the emotion is still alive. They keep weighing risk. They keep trying to avoid pain for both of you. While you may experience the distance as abandonment, they may experience it as survival. They are trying to hold fear, longing, hope, admiration, and uncertainty all at once. They may be afraid of losing themselves in a relationship. They may be afraid of not being enough for someone they care about so much. That is why they remain stuck between stepping forward and staying still. But underneath all of it, one truth remains. Their feelings are deep. Their care is real. They may not show it clearly, but that does not mean it is absent. Even now they likely carry those emotions quietly. The connection stays alive inside them, even if their behavior does not always match what is in their heart. So yes, the distance is visible, but under that distance is a complicated mix of love, fear, admiration, longing, and self-doubt. And until they learn how to face those emotions honestly, the silence may continue. That is painful, but it is also important to understand, because once you understand the hidden struggle, you stop blaming yourself for every quiet day. You stop assuming that silence always means you were easy to leave behind. Another hard truth is that love without healing often creates separation. This happens all the time. Feelings alone are not always enough when someone still carries pain from earlier experiences. Old wounds connected to trust, vulnerability, independence, or commitment can make a new bond feel frightening instead of safe. Your presence may awaken not only tenderness in them, but also pressure, responsibility, the fear of loss, the fear of failing someone good. And because of that, they choose space, not because they do not care, but because caring shakes them. They do not fully trust their own emotional steadiness. They are not sure they can protect your heart in the way they think it deserves to be protected. So distance starts to look safer to them than closeness. Moving back feels less risky than moving forward, and possibly causing damage. And while all of this may explain their side, there is also your side. Why do your thoughts keep returning to them again and again? Because real emotional connections do not always end the moment communication stops. Your deeper self sensed that something remained unfinished. There were words left unsaid, feelings left unspoken, a bond that never got the chance to fully become what it might have become. That is why your mind circles back. It is not just memory, it is unresolved emotion. It is the feeling that the story paused before it reached its natural end. When there is no clear closure, the mind keeps revisiting the silence, the possibilities, the missing conversation. You replay moments. You imagine different outcomes. You search the quiet for meaning. And no, that does not make you weak. It makes you human. Your heart is still trying to understand something that mattered. The recurring thoughts are not proof that you failed to let go. They are proof that what you felt left an imprint. It mattered. It touched something deep. And when love is interrupted before it can fully open, it often stays alive in memory far longer than expected. That is why the connection can feel paused instead of completed. A part of you still senses potential that never had the chance to fully unfold. So your mind goes back. Again and again, it revisits old words, old feelings, old moments. It tries to create answers where life gave you none. And this process can be exhausting, but it also reveals something important. The bond was significant. Your heart does not return to every person this way. It returns to what felt unfinished, meaningful, and emotionally alive. Even when you try to move forward, the longing for some kind of clarity remains. That does not mean you are stuck forever. It means your inner world is still processing something real. And sometimes that process teaches you more than immediate closure ever could. Space can teach patience. Silence can teach self-awareness. Uncertainty can show you what you truly need from love. During these stretches of quiet, you begin to understand your own heart more clearly. You see what kind of connection you want. You see how much consistency matters. You see how deeply you are capable of caring, and that matters too. Stay with this idea. Your thoughts return not because you are broken, but because a deeper part of you knows that love does not always follow a neat timeline. Healing matters, timing matters, emotional readiness matters. Sometimes the connection still carries energy because the lesson is not finished yet. Sometimes it waits for understanding. Sometimes it waits for acceptance. Sometimes it asks both people to learn before anything can move again. In that waiting, you discover something powerful. Love can still mean something, even when it does not reach the perfect form you hoped for. Some bonds remain valuable because of what they teach, even before you know how they will end. There are likely moments when they think of you without warning. A song, a street, a certain smell in the air, a memory that suddenly returns late at night. And just like that, you are in their mind again. They wonder how you are. They hope you are okay. They think about how different things could have been if they had acted with more courage, more honesty, more emotional clarity. But for now, fear still wins. That is the painful part. The desire to reach out can be real while the ability to do it remains weak. They replay old conversations. They imagine other choices. They think about chances they wish they had taken. And one surprising truth about this whole distance is that the connection itself may be changing them. Real connection can transform a person. It can force hidden truths into the light. It can expose wounds they thought were under control. It can ask for growth they were not ready to begin. That kind of change is not always welcomed at first. It can feel overwhelming. So they step back. But stepping back is not always rejection. Sometimes it is a pause for inner sorting, a pause for emotional catching up, a pause for the parts of them that were awakened too fast. This is why pressure rarely helps. Trying to force clarity too soon often creates more resistance. Fear grows larger when it feels pushed. Some understandings come only when enough space exists for emotions to settle. Healing follows its own timing. Real clarity often arrives quietly, after the panic has softened. So this situation does not mean you were too much. It does not mean you were hard to love. It simply means you met someone whose feelings were real, but whose emotional readiness had not reached the same level as their affection. That says nothing bad about your worth. It says everything about how important timing and inner healing can be. What happened between you was real. Even if it was filled with silence, confusion, and unfinished moments, it still mattered. The memories remain because the connection itself carried weight. Distance does not erase what was there. Silence does not cancel emotional truth. More often, these things reveal personal struggles that still need time, honesty, and growth. The story can feel unfinished, not because the feeling was shallow, but because the people involved were not equally ready. Love does not always disappear when it becomes invisible. Sometimes it waits, sometimes it changes form, sometimes it grows under the surface until both people are stronger, calmer, and more able to meet each other well. And through all of this, you are learning. You are learning patience without losing self-respect. You are learning how to care deeply without abandoning your own needs. You are learning that true compassion includes seeing another person's hidden battle. But it does not require you to live in endless confusion. That is important. Because while some of the deepest forms of care hide behind fear and hesitation, you still deserve love that shows up with steadiness, honesty, and emotional presence. You deserve affection that does not leave you guessing forever. The distance may be one chapter, but it is not the whole story of your life. Whether this person returns someday, or whether someone new comes in with clearer intentions, the wisdom you gained from this will stay with you. It will sharpen your understanding of emotional truth. It will help you recognize when silence is fear and when silence is simply lack of effort. It will teach you the difference between hidden care and repeated inconsistency. And that lesson is valuable. Do not overlook it. What you felt was meaningful, but what you deserve must also be meaningful in a way that brings peace, not only longing. If they come back one day, it will likely be because healing created room where fear once ruled. It will not be because they forgot you and suddenly remembered. Real affection rarely disappears that cleanly when it has touched someone deeply. If they return, It may be with more awareness, more courage, and more stability than before. But until that day comes, stop carrying responsibility for wounds that were never yours to fix. Stop shrinking your needs to protect someone else from facing their own emotions. Stop turning your kindness into self-abandonment. This matters more than you think. If the care is truly meant to become something lasting, then one day it will meet you fully, not halfway, not in fragments, not only in hidden feelings and silent distance. And if that does not happen, then the distance may be guiding you toward a connection that can match your depth with confidence and consistency. A person can truly care about you and still be unready to stay close. Painful, yes, but true. And that truth does not reduce your value. It redirects you towards something healthier. Your heart deserves a love that honors how deeply you care without trapping you in endless uncertainty. These silent seasons are not wasted. They are shaping your judgment. They are teaching you what balance feels like. They are preparing you for a bond that does not use distance as its main form of survival. And even now, meaning still exists in this experience. Every memory, every reflection, every unanswered question has helped you grow in emotional wisdom. You see more clearly now. You understand hidden patterns better. You know that quiet love can exist, but you also know that quiet love alone is not always enough to build a life with. So honor what you felt, but also honor what you need. Respect the connection, but respect yourself just as much. Love can become quiet. It can become distant. It can move in hidden ways for a season. But meaningful experiences do not lose their value just because they did not unfold the way you hoped. Every part of this story has shaped you. It has deepened your understanding of patience, vulnerability, self-worth, and emotional truth. Some bonds come to stay. Some come to teach. Some do both. And sometimes the lesson is this: you can understand another person's fear without making their fear your home. You can care deeply and still choose peace. You can recognize that someone's silence may contain real feeling, while also knowing that your life cannot remain paused forever. That is not coldness, that is growth. So if this person is still in your mind, take it as proof that the bond mattered, but do not take it as a command to wait endlessly. Let the feeling teach you, not imprison you. Let the memory soften you, not break your sense of worth. And if they are meant to step forward, they will do so with clearer intention, stronger presence, and a heart more ready than before. If not, life may be making space for someone who will not fear the depth you carry, someone who will not admire your heart from a distance while hiding from it, someone who will meet your honesty with honesty, your care with care, your openness with openness. Until then, breathe, keep moving, keep healing. The silence is not the end of your story. It is only one part of it, and whether this connection returns in a stronger form or fades into a lesson that changed you, the truth remains the same. What you felt was real, what you learned is valuable, and the love meant for you will not ask you to live forever in the dark.